Alright, so this is a video on how to download and install and use the Python EventLogViewer project. So to begin, you're going to go to this URL here, github.com/ShaneKent/PyEventLogViewer/releases, and you're going to want to download the newest installer. So in this case, it's version 0.2.0/beta. You click the installer here and save it to some location. In this case, I save it to downloads, and then I'm going to run the installer. Now, if you're running a newer Windows machine, you might get this warning message that says that it's an unrecognized app. That's because we don't have a publisher's license right now. So if you click more info, you'll see that it says unknown publisher. That publisher is our team. So go ahead and hit run anyway. Now, if you also have an antivirus installed, they may throw some issues at you because of the same sort of thing. You know, it doesn't know where this download is coming from. So in this case, we're going to click Run this program anyway and say Always allow this file. So we run that, and you might get this user account control. Click Yes, and then the installer will begin running. Now, at that point, the executable should be on your desktop called Timeline Viewer. So if you double click that, the window will pop up and you are ready to use the timeline. So to begin, we're going to go to File and then New, and we're going to create a new project at some location. So in this case, I'm going to keep it as its default location, which you can see here, and I'm going to call this example project. We click Create, it'll say up here that we're now inside example project, and so we can import log files by going to Tools and Import Log File. I'm going to be importing these two log files on my desktop here, so I'm going to go to my desktop and choose Security or System. I'm going to start with Security, and I'm going to provide it a name, so I'll call this Desktop Security. Now, you don't have to do that. You could leave it as alias, but two event logs can't have the same alias. So I'm going to give it this unique alias here. And at this point, the software begins parsing security.evtx for important records, and you can see that it's progressing via the timeline or progress bar here. And once it's done, the timeline appears, and you get information about the desktop security file that we just imported. So when you begin, it's sorted by the timestamp of each record. But if you wanted to sort it by some other descriptor, you could do that as well. So if we wanted to sort it by the account, that could be done. If we wanted to sort it by computer name, that could also be done. But let's go ahead and import the other file that we had. So that's the system file here. So we'll call this desktop system. And we'll click Import, and again, the progress bar. And once it's completed, the two files are intermingled, interweaved, essentially, based on the timestamp. So if we scroll through, you'll see that there are some desktop security files and some desktop system files. The color coding here is a default color coding, but that can also be changed if you go to Tools and then Record Highlighting. And at this point, you can choose a specific record by the event ID and the event source and change the color that you want for that. Once that's done, you can click Finish. And then if there are also other event IDs that you wanted to color code, then you could do that as well. So in this case, let's choose, we'll choose the event ID 20001 from event source Microsoft user PNP. So let's type in Microsoft Windows user PNP event ID 20001. Let's add that in there, and then we can choose the color. Let's say we want this light blue here. And at that point, you can see the timeline auto-populates with the color coding that you just provided it. So this is a really powerful tool if you wanted to highlight one specific type of event. Now you can also go ahead and export the timeline to a specific file type. The two current file types that are supported are .csv file and .html file. So let's go ahead and do .html, and I'm going to export this to the timeline, or to the desktop. So we select that folder, select this folder, and provide it a file name. I'll just call that export. And then you can choose the columns that you want to export, and those columns correspond to these columns here. If we click export, then on the desktop you will now have an export.html file, which you can open in pretty much any applicable web browser, and you will view the timeline in a nice viewable manner that you can send to other people if you needed to. So that's pretty much the main features of this software at this point in time. If at any point you do want to remove the project or the executable, you can uninstall the program by going to the add and remove software portion of Windows and looking for, let's see, where is it? Here it is, PyEventLogViewer, and you can uninstall that and go through the process, and the executable is gone, and your software has been removed. So this is a really nice, clean way of using our software, and if you have any issues, go ahead and let us know.